I'm Balu, and I'm a very, very proud member of the Auggie community. I'm so glad that you could join us today for Potty Training 101. So, whether you're tuning in while you're juggling a toddler or you're catching a quiet moment for yourself, we really appreciate you being here. We know that potty training can be one of the more daunting milestones in early parenting, and that's exactly why we're gathered here today to get the tips, the tools, and the confidence so we can tackle the stage with less stress and more success. So, before we dive in, I wanted to make a quick intro for anyone who's new to Augie. Auggie is a platform that's built exclusively for new and expecting parents. So, as you know, through our vibrant community and curated marketplace, you can connect with other fellow parents. You can share honest recommendations. You can discover trusted products and services. So, really think of it as your online village, the village we've all been looking for, finally, because parenting is better when you don't have to do it alone. So, today, I'm super, super thrilled to welcome Miss Catherine. She's an expert in early childhood development and has helped countless families navigate the potty training process. So she's here to break it down for us, what to expect, how to get started, common mistakes to avoid, like I've made. How to support your child through it all with patience and confidence. And she'll be answering questions too. So please don't hold back in the Q&A. Um, so as you have questions throughout the session, just drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll save some time at the end to get through as many as we can. Does that sound good, Miss Catherine?
Perfect. Yes, yes.
Amazing. Well, take it away.
Okay. All right. So, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us and taking some time out of your busy, busy days. I always like to start off with just a little bit about me so that you know where I'm coming from. So, I am the mom of three boys. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a very soon to be 2-year-old. So, I'm right there in the thick of it with all of you. But I do have a background in child development. I then went on and got my master's degree in early childhood development with a specialization in autism. I worked for a number of years for Autism Speaks, where I worked as a preschool liaison, so making sure that kindergarten was ready for the preschoolers coming in. And I also worked in the early childhood sector. I worked for Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for a number of years in their pediatric sleep lab. So I have a very well rounded experience and knowledge when it comes to early childhood and children and parenting. About 10 years ago, I started my own business, Miss Catherine, where I do things like this, where I host classes with wonderful organizations like Auggie, and then I also work one on one with families to individualize my services for your family and your child. My whole philosophy is every child develops at a different pace, every child learns differently, every child is different, right? So to take one method and apply it to all children sometimes doesn't work. So to individualize it and create what will work best for your child and your family is what I absolutely love to do. Um, what I would like to do is talk to you guys today about potty training 101. Just like I just said, not every method of potty training fits every child. So today what I like to do is sort of break down the overarching goals and ways to approach potty training for all children, and then give you tools for you to move forward to be able to individualize it for your child. So, we're not going to talk about like the 3-day method or the naked method today, although I have worked with families who use those. We're going to talk about how to take any method and apply it personally to your child. So I always like to start off with potty training. And by the way, guys, fill up that Q&A box with any questions. I love the Q&A part of my classes so that I can answer as many as possible. But I always like to start off with the mindset of potty training. So I always say that potty training is a family affair, right? Everybody needs to be on the same page and on board that, like, we're doing this, we're jumping in, we're all doing this, right? Because we want everyone to be on the same page to help foster consistency and positivity. And you're going to hear me say that all the time, to be PC, positive and consistent, but it really is a family affair. So, talking to daycare, talking to nannies, talking to grandma and grandpa, whoever's a consistent person in your child's life daily, we really want everyone to be on the same page, know the plan, get on the plan, and be on board with it before we dive into potty training. Um, we don't want to set up unrealistic expectations. There's that thought out there that like we can get this done in a long weekend. It's going to be super easy and quick. And some children are able to do that, and that is fantastic. But the majority of children need a little bit longer time. So setting our expectations more realistically that this may take time, just like walking took time and crawling and starting solids, right? This is another developmental skill set that may take a little bit of time. We're going to start playing up the positives of big kid behavior because potty training is a big kid behavior. So we're really going to start telling our little one how proud we are and praising them for big kid behavior, and sort of getting rid of sort of babyish tendencies and sort of shifting our focus more on kid independent behavior because that is also what potty training is. Um, so the biggest question I get asked all the time is, okay, well, what age? What age do we start potty training, right? And so unfortunately, I feel like there's been this age out there of like they should be potty trained by 3. And it normally is because swimming lessons, you have to be potty trained. Preschool, daycare, you must be potty trained by the 3-year-old age group. And although potty training by 3 is great and wonderful, and I would agree developmentally fits in, not all children are able to master that by 3. And so I think it's important to know what the readiness signs are developmentally and not so much the numerical age, right? So I have come up with 3 signs that you're ready to take the plunge, pun intended, to start potty training, right? So the first is their diaper. So your child's diaper should be dry for more than a 2-hour stretch or 2-hour period. If they're waking up from nap or overnight sleep more dry than wet, that is a great sign. And if they're able to control their bladder and not have a wet diaper for a 2-hour stretch, that's an also great sign. That shows you that your child is physically, developmentally ready to be potty trained. They're able to hold their output, urine or poop, for an extended period of time. They're able to control their body. It's that mind connecting to body development that we really need before we start training. So that's the first readiness sign is diaper 2-hour stretch dry, right? The second is bowel movements, poop. Poop is a big one when it comes to potty training, and we really want to make sure that our little one is first pooping consistently. So that your child should be pooping either daily or every other day. If they are going longer than that for pooping, we really want to get things moving and running a little bit smoother before we start potty training. But we want them to have a consistent bowel movement either daily or every other day. I always tell families, if you have a child in a preschool or a daycare setting, this readiness sign is easy to detect because you'll get those daily logs like they pooped at 10, they peed at 12, right? Those are great ways to record if they're pooping consistently and when are they pooping consistently. If you don't have your child in a organization that gets a daily log like that, or if they're home with you, I always say start a poop journal. Write it in your phone, jot it on a piece of paper just for a week. You'll start to see their consistency with pooping, and you'll also start to see when they're pooping. It's important to know when they're pooping because most children, their diet doesn't tend to vary too much. So pooping tends to happen normally around the same time of day, and we want to know that before we start potty training. Why? So we can start building in a little bit more extra time during those times of day for them to sit on the potty and successfully poop in it, right? So first readiness sign is that diaper dry for more than a 2-hour stretch. The second is consistent pooping either daily or every other day with no constipation. And the third is body awareness. And this is multifaceted, but we want our little one first to be aware of their body parts. You're going to start talking a lot about pushing our penis down or wiping ourselves. And so we really want to decide as a family unit, what are we labeling their body parts, what are we calling them, start talking about them, because when you say that to your child, you want them to know what you're talking about, right? So being aware of their body parts, being aware of what their body parts do, right? Where does poop come from? Where does pee come from? And then we also want them to be able to move and manipulate their body. Try to pull their pants up and down. That's very helpful for a little one who's rushing in trying to go potty. We want them to be able to have that gross motor skill of pulling their pants up and down. Most 2, 3 year olds have difficulty doing this independently, but if you can help assist them and you can practice that when you're changing and dressing them for the day, you can help them practice pulling their pants up and down. That's a great tip to sort of strengthen that skill set. And then lastly, with body awareness, we want our little ones to be have sort of that again brain mind to body connection, right? So we want them to be aware of what they're doing. So if you have a little one who says, I pooped, I need to be changed, or I'm wet, I have a wet diaper. That's that mind body connection of them realizing that they're wet or they're soiled and they need to be changed. That's a great body awareness sign that they're ready to be potty trained. Another one is if you have a hider, if they go and they hide in a corner and they poop, that's another great sign to show you that they realize, like, I'm doing something, it's not quite right. I'm not sure what the right way is, but it's not quite right. It's connecting that mind to body again. That's another great sign of body awareness. And then lastly, with body awareness, is them being able to announce that they went potty, or making noises or grunting. Maybe it's not so much verbal, but noises or grunting is another sign of body awareness. So, those are my three readiness signs to let you know when your child's ready to be potty trained. So, first, diaper dry for a longer than a 2 hour stretch. Second is that bowel movement being consistent. And third is that body awareness. If your child can hit two of the three of those body awareness skill sets, then they are ready to be potty trained. The American Pediatric Association recommends that a child is potty trained between the ages of 18 months and 34 months, which is a pretty big gap. They actually raised it. It used to be 32 months. Now we're at 34. But so I always say that's a large gap in development and child development. I think it's important to realize when your child is ready specifically, and that's why I came up with those readiness signs. I will say, if I had to pick an age, it would be before the age of 3, but not earlier than the age of 2.5. And the reason for that is that's a really good sweet spot that most children are developmentally ready to be potty trained at that age, either between 2.5 and 3. And you're not quite at the point where your little one has that pushback, that strong-willed child of I do it myself. They're still willing to have you help them. And so that I feel like is the perfect window. But again, I really like to focus on the developmental skill set. So now that you know when your child's ready to be potty trained, now we're going to talk about the different ways that you can go about it, right? So the first choice that you have to make is between pull-ups and underwear. Meaning, are you going to go right from diapers to underwear, or are you going to go from diapers to pull-ups and then eventually to underwear? There is no right or wrong way to go about this. I fully believe it really depends on your specific child and your family dynamic. And we're going to dive into that in a minute. But I also think, and I say this a lot, your child's daycare or preschool may make this decision for you. Nowadays, most facilities have a potty training policy. And so I always tell families to ask them what their policy is, because most of them are that they need to be in a pull up until they are completely accident free. And if that is the case, they made the choice for you. You're doing pull ups. It is important to be consistent. So we want whatever they do at school to be done at home. So if we're using pull ups at school, we're going to use pull ups at home and vice versa. Okay. So what are the big pros and cons for pull ups and underwear? Pull ups, pros and cons, right? They are less messy, right? They contain an accident very well. Then, therefore, there's less laundry. And they're able to be consistent with sleeping. So, if you are potty training just for the daytime and nighttime training is coming later, which for most children it will, most children are not developmentally ready to be potty trained overnight until closer to the age of 4. And overnight training is not as big of a deal as daytime training. So, I always tell families just focusing on the day if they're younger than 4 is fine. Um, Cons, they are very expensive, right? There's still a lot of cost involved. They can give a similar feeling to diapers. So I always say if you have a child that gets very complacent, very comfy and cozy in their diaper, a pull-up may not be the best route because it sort of just becomes a glorified fancy diaper, because they feel protected, right? They feel protected from that accident like a diaper did, and it doesn't give them as much ownership over their actions during potty training. Pros and cons for underwear. Uh, Pros, it creates a very strong sense of ownership very quickly, right? They have to own it. They're wearing underwear. If they have an accident, everyone knows, it's a big deal. It really encourages then that action of them going on the potty because they have to own it so quickly. And it's one less transition, right? So we're going from diapers to underwear, no other transition. Whereas pull-ups, it's an extra step. You're doing diapers to pull-ups and then eventually to underwear. Cons, it's way more of mess, way more of laundry and cleaning up. It can be extremely inconvenient at times. I always tell the story. I was potty training my oldest. We were going sledding in the middle of a snowstorm. He was in the middle of potty training, and my husband was like, "We're going to put a diaper on him, right?" And I said, "No, we have to be consistent. We have to wear underwear under the snow gear and hope and pray that we don't have an accident on the sledding hill, right?" So it can be inconvenient at times to keep that consistency. So I always tell families, think about your lifestyle. If you're one that has long commutes to work with your child, or your child, you're very transient or out and about a lot more than being home, underwear might be difficult to start with, right? And it can lead to discouragement because they have to own it so fast. Those consistent accidents in the beginning of potty training can lead to discouragement. So, those are the pros and cons for underwear and pull ups. Again, there really is no right or wrong way. I've worked with families in both routes. Sometimes there's a better way, right? But I like to always give both sides for you guys to decide. So now that you know, um, when they're ready to be potty trained, now that you've picked between pull-ups and underwear, the next thing that you really need to decide between is a potty seat, which is the seat that inserts on your child's or on your adult toilet, excuse me, or a small potty, which is those potties that sit on the floor. Again, there's pros and cons to both. There is no right or wrong way. A small potty on the floor is one more transition again, right? You eventually have to transition them to sit on the regular potty. A potty seat can be very overwhelming to a child. So I will say if you do pick a potty seat, make sure there are handles, make sure there's a back to make them feel a lot more secure. You also want them to always have a stool. 2 reasons. One, for security. Two, so that their uh legs are at the correct angle for their body to be able to poop easier. So those are some things to remember if you're going to use a potty seat insert. The biggest thing with choosing between this gear is if you are on the go or if you're home. Because if you are on the go and you use a little potty, that little potty's coming with you to Target and that little potty's coming with you to grandma's house because we want to be consistent. If you have a potty seat, that's a lot easier to bring to Target and grandma's house. So just sort of thinking about your lifestyle and what would work best to keep consistency is key. I was talking to the Auggie team, and you will be getting a email after today's class, and in that email I have specific potty seats that I have found that can sort of morph into a little potty and a transient potty, if that makes sense, to sort of help you guys bridge that gap. So that will be included in that email after today's class. So, readiness signs. We chose between pull ups and underwear. We've decided between a potty and a potty seat. And I really would strongly suggest you pick one or the other. We don't want to dabble in both. That can be very confusing to our little ones. Now it's time to create a plan, right? And start training. So, with all of my families that I work with, I always have a prep period. This is the period prior to actually potty training where we are going to prep our home, our child, our family dynamic for the plan to come, which is potty training, right? So we're going to bridge that gap between diapers and the potty. How are we going to do that? We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what we're about to do. We're going to read a lot of books about potty training. One of my favorites is Everyone Poops. I have a full list of my favorite potty books, but Everyone Poops is a great book to read because it really explains the process of pooping. And it also shows your little one exactly what happens, which is the biggest obstacle for little ones when pooping in the potty because there's sort of that fear of the unknown, right? Like, what's going to happen? So, you're going to read a lot of potty books for them to start understanding the concept. Reading books to children is a great way for them to take the information, process it in their own way, and then ask you questions so you can start to cue in where they're struggling with understanding, what they're worried about. Those are great little tips for you to figure out so that you can adjust your plan accordingly. Um, you're going to practice with your little one working on 1 to 2 step directions because potty training is a lot of 1 to 2 step directions. You're going to work on that, pulling those pants up and down, right? And then you're going to decide as a family unit, when are you going to start? When I work with families, I say we need to save the date. We need to pick a date. You need to put it on the calendar. Everybody knows that that is the day you're starting training. Timing of potty training is also very important. We don't want to do it right before a new baby's being born, right? There's too much going on for our toddler right then. We don't want to do it right before we go on vacation or when we have a lot of other transitions going on. We want a good solid 2 weeks of pretty regular life for potty training. You're going to decide between pull-ups and underwear. You're going to decide between that potty seat and that small potty. You're going to stock up on clothes. We're going to create a reward system, which I have a sample of that I can send you guys, but we really want to work with positive reward systems for potty training, which means your little one receives, it can be many different ways, but there's a token economy where they can receive multiple different rewards leading up to a major award, right? So like 5 stickers gets you, a prize out of the prize bin. Or they can get instant rewards after every positive potty behavior. We really want to praise all positive potty behavior. So that's saying, I pooped and I need to be changed. That's a positive potty behavior. They're showing you that they recognize they did something wrong and they're realizing what they need to do. They're also going to, we're going to praise them for sitting and trying, even though nothing happens. We're going to praise them, obviously, for going on the potty. All of those are great ways to sort of praise them and get them very excited about the behavior that we're trying to teach, which is saying you have to go potty, self initiating, sitting on the potty, and actually going, right? So you're going to create a sticker chart. You want your little one to have a buy in for that, is what we like to call it. So have them pick out the stickers, have them pick out their underwear, get them involved, get them excited, because we really want our little ones to feel in control, especially during potty training, because potty training can make them feel very out of control, right? And then the last 2 things you're going to do before you really start diving into training is you are going to create a potty on the go bag. So, a potty on the go bag is a bag with everything that you use at home for potty training for on the go. So, a potty seat, those stickers, a little reward chart, wipes, underwear, extra pull-ups, whatever it may be, a clean clothes for your child. I always say what comes out must go down, right? So don't forget about socks and shoes. We're headed into the summer, so like Crocs or sandals that can be easily like rinsed off are great for potty training. And don't forget yourself excuse me, don't forget a shirt for yourself. I feel like so many of us like scoop our little ones up when they have an accident, but then we're dirty. So throw in like a pair of leggings and a shirt for yourself. That will be helpful. And then my biggest tip for a putty on the go bag is a pack of post-its. So post-its are great to put over the sensors of public toilets. That way, they won't go off while your little one is sitting. It helps ease that fear. Your little one can do it themselves, and it will really help sort of ease the fear when it comes to public restrooms. Then, once you have a plan, once you've figured out the gear, once everyone's on the same page, once you have that on the go bag, it's time to train, right? So, you are going to have your little one go on the potty. You're going to have the reward system ready for them to go. The biggest thing I'm going to tell you is, and hear me out, in the beginning, the first hour to 2 hours of training, you are going to ask your little one to sit on the potty every 20 minutes. It is just for the first hour to 2 hours. Why? We need to figure out their threshold, right? Can they go 45 minutes before having an accident, or is it only 20 minutes? And then you can adjust that time frame of how long they can go before sitting. Uh, Accordingly for your child. The other thing that you want to remember is your child should not sit on the potty for longer than 5 minutes and for a minimum of 2 minutes, right? So we want to give them some time to have success. So 2 minutes, but longer than 5 minutes is too long. It makes our little ones become resentful of the potty. It makes them feel like they're missing out on a million and 10 things. So, using a timer if you need to, setting it on your Apple Watch or Google so that they know this is when I'm sitting, but there is an end time to this is very helpful. I always say we are not going to say, "Do you need to go potty?" Because 99% of the time, your child's going to say, "No, I don't need to go." Right. So we're going to use transitions as the way for a little one to go potty. So just like you get them to get changed, get their hair done, brush their teeth, you're going to build in potty training in your schedule. So they wake up, good morning, we're going to go brush our teeth. We're going to go potty. Then we're going to go downstairs and have breakfast. They go downstairs, they have breakfast. Great job with breakfast. We're going to go potty. We're going to put our shoes on. Then we're going to go to the park, right? It's built into the transition. It makes your little one feel like they're in control. They're not being told to go potty. It's just sort of built in and they're choosing to go potty at that moment. And it helps with that power struggle that can tend to happen with potty training. Okay. So I like to stop there. I know I like spit a bunch of information at you guys, but I like to stop there to answer your questions and dive into things a little bit deeper.
Yeah, this is incredible. It's a lot of information, but you've presented it so beautifully and,
Oh, thank you.
very digestible. So I wish I'd done this before I started potty training. But here we are. Okay, we do have a few questions actually in the chat, and if anybody else has any questions, definitely drop them in.
Yeah.
The first one is from Amanda. Her daughter just turned 3. Happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
They've tried potty training at 28 months and then again around the 33-month mark. They, tried the method where they send her to daycare in undies. The problem is she's just not going on the potty. She knows what needs to happen. She knows what the difference between poop and pee, but she's just kind of holding when she's on the potty actually, and they're getting a lot of push from the daycare to get her potty trained so she can move up to the next class. Any insight there?
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading that they've
Mm-hmm.
used potty charts with stickers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I first of all, I always say when things are not working, and I think a lot of families try really hard not to do this. I think it's a bad thing, but it's actually something I very strongly suggest is to take a break, right? Because obviously it's not working. Everyone's getting frustrated and something's not connecting. And so take a break, take a 2 week break, put the potty away, put the underwear away, start over and sort of reassess in those 2 weeks maybe what isn't connecting or what is the obstacle for her. Um, it's hard to, like without knowing more, but what I would say is make sure that your potty chart with stickers, make sure she's getting a reward instantly. Um, instant reward is very helpful. Children around that age, they can't understand that, like, what they did at 8 a.m. and they get the reward at 6 p.m., that doesn't connect to them, so we want the reward to be instant, and I would start really small. So reward her, like I said, for just sitting, then reward her for trying, reward her for self-initiating, and eventually to pee and poop on the potty. Um, would be my first suggestion. But if you have any other, if you want me to dive a little deeper with you and help you, Amanda, I'd be happy to help if you want to reach out.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Another question is from Jordan about asking for advice for a strong-minded little guy who will be 3 in June. They did a 3-day potty training a few months ago, and he was successful the first day, but then wanted nothing to do with it the rest of the weekend. So he's capable. He'll occasionally ask to sit on the potty and will be successful with pee only. But when they try consistently to let go of pull-ups, he throws a fit and will rebel against the potty and
Yeah.
want nothing to do with it. So potty training is really only on his terms.
Yes. Strong-willed
Yes.
potty trainee. There's a lot of those. So with strong-willed children, most especially, right, they're gonna be fabulous adults, but right now it can be hard.
Yeah.
So what I always say is we want them to feel that this is their idea and their way of going about it. So that buy-in, like I talked about, is so, so important. So again, Jordan, I would take just a break, maybe not 2 weeks, maybe just he'll be 3 in June. So in my opinion, I'd wait till after his 3rd birthday, right? And then make it a big deal. You're 3 now, you get to go on the potty and have him have that buy-in. I would get rid of the pull-up. I would go to underwear. I would have him be fully invested in that underwear, get him to choose his stickers, get him to choose his reward system, and also get him to uh have those transitions, right? Less of a command of going on the potty and more just making it part of his day will make him feel like he's choosing to do it instead of you.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Diana had a question. Just to clarify those 3 readiness signs again, could you repeat those for anybody who might have missed them?
Sure. So the first is diaper dry for more than a 2 hour stretch or waking up more dry than not for overnight. That will let you know if they're ready for overnight training. The second is consistent bowel movements. So either pooping daily or every other day. And the third is body awareness. So them being aware when they peed, when they pooped, announcing it, them being aware of their body parts, and them being able to move their body, climb up a stool to sit on a potty, pull their pants up and down assisted, are your 3 readiness signs. And if they can at least hit 2 of them, then they're ready to be trained.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mhm.
Claire had a question. Can we have both types of potty in the home, or is that confusing? I think you touched on that a little.
Yeah, I find that to be confusing. So I always tell families choose whatever your little one seems most comfortable with, right? If they are comfortable with the potty on the floor, then go with that. Do you need 20 little potties? No, just have one. Put it in the main bathroom that they'll use daily. And then once you go upstairs for the evening, bring it upstairs with you. And the same goes for the potty insert for the toilet. But I wouldn't do both. I would pick one.
Mhm. That's great. And then we have another grown up with another girl who'll be 3 in August. They're having trouble with number 2. So she goes number 1, great. She'll take herself to the bathroom when she needs to go, but when it comes to number 2, she will hide. She's tried her best to keep her around, but having 2 other littles, she knows when she's distracted and goes then. She's also afraid that, she's doing her best to hold it in and then causing issues. So she's at a loss for any tips, please.
Yeah, this is a hard one. This is probably 90% of the families that I work with one-on-one are children that start to withhold their poop or have very specific scenarios when they do poop, and but can go pee perfectly on the potty. My biggest suggestion would be to make sure at first that she's not getting constipated. So keep the water intake high, keep certain things in her diet like coconut. You can mix coconut in muffins, pancakes, smoothies. That helps things move a little slower. Pumpkin is another great one. And then I would really create a very consistent plan to have her have times to sit on the potty, and also create an idea for her of that she's not missing out. I'm sure a lot of her sitting and pooping on the potty is that she's going to miss out on something. So sort of letting her know, listen, you're not going to miss anything if we go sit on the potty for 2 minutes. But if you have an accident, then we're going to miss a lot longer because we have to change you and this, and this, right? And sort of creating that pause play method of saying, like, if you have to go potty, you say pause play, and everything will pause. We'll pause play. Nothing will happen without you. We'll go sit for 2 minutes, take care of business, and then return back to play. A lot of times that FOMO is half the problem.
That's great. Thank you. I
Yeah.
have a question, and if anybody else has any questions, definitely drop them in the chat. We still have about just over 5 minutes left with Miss Catherine. I have a question about my toddler. So we tried at 18 months when I got pregnant with my second, and I panicked because I
Yeah.
didn't like
Yeah.
like
Yeah. We got to get it
change
done.
the
Yeah.
diaper off the diaper. And it didn't work, but we happened to successfully potty train him just before his third birthday, which is later this week. But
Okay.
I am nervous about like regression. I've seen that come up quite a lot, especially in life changes, maybe moving houses or changing schools. What
Yeah.
are some things to watch out for, in terms of regression?
Yeah. So about 70% of children will regress at some point. And it's not really anything that we as parents are doing wrong. It's just sort of this developmental, they'll hit a point and sometimes they'll regress back because what I think a lot of us forget is when our little ones, before they're potty trained, all they know is that they pee or poop in their diaper and they got our undivided attention for a minute to 2 minutes of changing them, right? So at some point when we try to break them of that, sometimes our little ones will regress to get that attention. So I always say keep the positive praise going as much as you can, even if they've been going on the potty for a year. We really want to continue to give them the attention for the positive potty behavior to help curb the regression. If regression does happen, which, like I said, it can, I always say go back to the basics. Go back to however you successfully potty trained your little one the first time. Start off small. They'll start to quickly gain back that confidence and the independence of going on the potty, but going back to your basics of how you initially taught them successfully would be my recommendation.
I love that. That's such a good reminder. Like, keep it going because they're still
Yeah.
learning, right? It's still
Yeah.
new.
It's so hard, right? Because like,
Yeah.
it's almost like we checked like, "Okay, good, we checked that box." Like, now we're moving on to scissor cutting and this and that, right? But
Mm.
it's still important to sort of praise that behavior because as much as potty training is a developmental milestone like walking and crawling, right? There is a lot of emotion attached to it for our little ones. And so I think that's why regression happens a lot because that emotion of like, I want this attention. I'm gonna, you know, I get it if I don't go potty correctly or think like it makes them sort of regress back. So if we can keep the positive praise going, it'll help.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, Agnes's firstborn is turning 2.5 in July. There's a new baby coming in September. Congratulations, Agnes. Should
Yeah.
they potty train before the new baby comes or after?
Um, I would say after. Yeah, I would say enjoy your 2.5-year-old when they turn in July. Enjoy August. Enjoy baby in September, and then sort of October, November. If they're showing those readiness signs, then you can start training. And what it will do is it will give your first that attention that they will love, especially after new baby comes just about them, right? And so I would create a plan, I would talk about it, I would really prep about it, getting them involved in buying the underwear or the gear, reading all the books with them to get them excited of like, you're the big brother or sister, and now you get to be the big kid and go on the potty and sort of separate baby from them.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, if anybody else has any more questions, definitely drop them in the chat. Another one that just came to me, Miss Catherine, is, we're talking a lot about raising the confidence of our kids. Is there any one thing or one kind of through line that you've seen working with parents? Any word of advice that can help us raise our confidence as we approach this big and scary
Yeah,
developmental
to give
milestone?
to give parents the confidence, you think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would say it's not as big of a deal as I think it's just sort of been painted to be. I think for
Yeah.
some reason it's like this big black cloud over the like 2 and 3-year-old population of like, "Oh, I have to potty train them." But I think that's the first thing, and the second I would say is to not compare yourselves to anybody else, right? Your child is your child, and you know them best, and they're gonna work at their pace, and just because, Catherine down the road at 2 is potty trained, but your 3-year-old isn't a bad thing, right?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I like that. Oh, Jordan had one more
Mhm.
question regarding her strong-minded guy who's turning 3 in June. I think we're raising the same kid, by the way,
Yeah.
Jordan. We did chat. Welcoming his baby brother at the end of June. Should we still resume potty training around his birthday or wait until after baby arrives? She was unsure since he has the foundation established already.
Yeah. Um, I'm sorry, I wanna refresh. So you this
Right. So she had a question. So strong-minded guy who has the foundation. They're welcoming baby brother. I think you had so she's asking if they should resume potty training around his birthday or still wait until after baby arrives.
Yeah. I think if we have the foundation, it's okay to resume around his birthday, maybe a little sooner if you think you're able to do that, like maybe the weekend before his birthday, but to give you a little buffer. But if as long as that foundation's there, it's very easy if you're consistent and positive to get him back on track before baby comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super helpful. Okay, she says thank you. Okay, that
Yeah.
was great.
I would
Um,
also add just whatever plan you do to get him back on track before baby comes, be
mm,
really sure that you and your partner and grandma or whoever is around when baby comes can keep it as consistent as possible to really help it move all the way through once baby arrives,
mm.
so that regression doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's a family affair. You said
Yes.
that. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, I'll share one more question from Savannah, and then if you want to close out with anything, Miss Catherine, before we hop off, thank you so much.
Sure.
This has
Yeah.
been so illuminating.
Okay.
And yes, for everyone, we will follow up with this recording and any additional resources Miss Catherine will share.
Yeah.
So from Savannah, if you choose to use a potty seat as your primary potty going solution, could having a small potty in the car for road trips also cause confusion? Would it be important for the little one to already be familiar with the little potty for the car?
Yeah. So what I love is I have a potty seat insert. It's by the OXO brand. So it is an insert for your potty, and then it has legs that come out. The legs stand up, so it sits like a small potty for your car, and you put like a baggie in it, and they can sit on it. I like that as that transition potty to use while you're in the car, but then also you can use it sitting on a seat. So I that is a fantastic point by Savannah, and that would be my transition small potty, if you will, because it's like a potty seat. Doesn't look like a little potty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's actually the one I have too. So,
Okay. Yeah, I love it.
yeah, any final words? We're a little bit over time, but
Yeah.
any final pieces of advice?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody. I know I mentioned this for the Augie, but any of you who attended today's class, you get $50 off any Miss Catherine service if you book it within the next week. So just be sure to let me know that you were on today's class, and then we can apply that to any service. And I also encourage you to follow along at the Miss Catherine on Instagram. I can put it in the chat box for you guys, but I am on there daily with tips and tricks on all things early childhood, and it's an easy way to get a hold of me or see other potty training advice or help.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Miss Catherine, for your time and all of
Yeah,
your wisdom today. And have a beautiful day, everyone.
thank
Chat
you.
soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.